Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Funke Afolabi Brown, founder of Restful Sleep MD. Today, we're going to be talking about the different stages of sleep. I've had questions come to me asking what stage of sleep is important. Can I, if I go to sleep late, will I miss dream sleep? Is dream sleep more important, or is deep sleep more important? And so we're just going to talk through that today. So one thing I want you to know, which is why I am showing slides today, just to give some reference, is that sleep is a very active process. It's not what we think. Most times you hear about, oh, I can't turn my brain off and things like that. But your brain actually doesn't get turned off when you sleep. Your brain is very active, processing things you've learned through the day, helping you to consolidate your memory, and so many other things. And so what happens is that we have two broad stages of sleep. You have what you call the non-REM sleep, or rapid eye movement, the non-rapid eye movement sleep, and then you have rapid eye movement sleep. And that non-rapid eye movement sleep is broken down into 3 other stages, or sometimes you'll hear 4 other stages, but more recently, stage 3 and 4 has been grouped into stage 3. And those stages really correlate with light, which is stage 1 or N1, intermediate, which is stage 2 or N2, and then stage 3 and 4, which is deep sleep, and that's N3. And then the other stage of sleep you get is the rapid eye movement, or REM sleep. One thing I would say is, as you're seeing this diagram, is that we cycle through these different stages. And one cycle, meaning you're going from stage 1 to 2 to 3, and then back into REM, and then into REM sleep. We have those cycles lasting about 90 minutes or so. In children, it's a bit shorter, and but in adults and in older children, it's about 90 minutes. And then the other thing I want you to pay attention to is you could see on top here that you have brief awakenings throughout the night. So waking up at night is normal. It's something that happens. We all wake up about 4 to 5 times at night. We just don't realize it because it's very brief awakening, and the conditions in which we fell asleep is probably still maintained, and that's how we're able to resume sleep. So now we'll talk about each stage, just so you understand, because that's the other question I get. What are the benefits, or what's the purpose of each stage of sleep? Now, a lot of this is new evidence, and it's not completely well known. It's still under a lot of study and things. But one thing that we know is that the non-REM sleep has been shown to be important for physical growth, for memory consolidation. And it's that stage of sleep where you have deep sleep. So for example, N1, and right? So for example, what you see here. So on this slide, what you see are just the different brain activities that's going on as you go through different sleep stages. And so what this is the EEG, which is just what shows what's going on in your brain. And what you have, the first is when you're awake, you can see there's a lot of fast activity. And then the next one is stage 1 non-REM sleep, where you see that things are starting to slow down. And usually that's when you start to transition into sleep. This stage of sleep represents a very small percentage of your total sleep time, usually about 5% or so. And actually in very young children, they hardly go through that drowsy transition. They just go straight into sleep. So you might not necessarily see it in very young children, but essentially your eyes start to roll back. You start to get very sort of lose touch with what's going on in your surrounding. You start to nod off. And that's what you call stage 1 or N1 sleep. The second stage N2, and you see here you have this bursts of activities and bursts of brain waves. And during this stage, what we usually say, what we call this, they're called spindles. Sometimes you'll see what you call K complexes, and really that's not something you need to, memorize. But essentially what that's been shown to help with is that it plays a role with memory. So things that you're learning, for example, procedures and things like that, this stage of sleep really helps. Again, this is a small, probably about 30% of your total sleep. So it's more than your stage 1 sleep. And then the stage 3 sleep, or N3 sleep, which again is a combination of that stage 3 and 4. This is the deepest stage of sleep. They also call it slow wave sleep. And so you can see right here, right? You can tell that the frequency is much slower. The amplitude or the size of the waves get bigger. So this is really deep, deep sleep. And most people try to, most times you'll hear of people saying, oh, REM sleep is deep sleep. REM sleep is actually not deep sleep. REM sleep is a separate stage of sleep, but non-REM sleep, stage 3 sleep, is deep sleep. And during this stage of sleep, this is where restoration is really taking place. This stage of sleep is the stage where most times if you try to wake someone up during this stage of sleep, it's very hard to wake them up. You may have experienced it where you're in stage 3 sleep and something happens that jolts you out and you feel that sense of complete confusion, or it's even really hard for you to wake up. We see that also in our children where their parents are saying, well, I just can't seem to wake him up or wake her up from sleep. Sometimes it's because they're in that really deep sleep. And this stage of sleep has been shown again this is where hormones like growth hormone is produced. So very important, right? We need growth hormone to grow. And children who don't get enough deep sleep actually have growth problems. Another thing that happens during this stage is also you can see different diseases like sleepwalking or sleep disorders like sleepwalking. So during this stage is also something that you may see sleepwalking, and most times the child is not aware of it. And even sometimes when you try to wake a child who's sleepwalking, you may not be successful in doing so. Then the REM sleep, or the rapid eye movement sleep, is when you get that dream sleep. So you may have heard that term, dream sleep. And this usually takes up the last 1/3 of the night. And during this stage, your muscles are very relaxed. Your eye muscles are active. They're actually very chaotic. And so during REM sleep, your heart rate is up. A lot is going on during that time. And sometimes it actually almost looks a little bit similar to when you're awake, except of course the eyes are shut. So that's another stage that occurs predominantly in the last third of the night. And over the course of the night, the way your sleep cycle goes is that during the earlier part of the night, you get non-REM sleep, and then REM sleep occurring and the latter part of the night. Now, what are the functions of REM sleep? Again, a lot of the absolute roles are not completely clear, but they've been shown to play a huge role in learning and memory. So think about that. Think about that for our children. If they have to be woken up very early in the morning and we deprive them of REM sleep, sometimes that affects their learning, their memory, as well as mood regulation. So those are really important pieces that we don't want to deprive ourselves or our families of. Again, another reason why scientists have felt that REM sleep is very important in learning and memory is, interestingly enough, in young children, in infants, in newborns and in infants, they have a large amount of REM sleep. REM sleep in adults is about 20% of your total sleep time, but in newborns and infants, it's up to as high as 50% of their total sleep time. And the reason why that is felt to be is because they're going through a very rapid stage of growth. And so they're growing, they're developing so rapidly. And so they need a lot of that REM sleep. So we can see that both non-REM sleep and REM sleep are the broad categories of sleep stages that we have. And then REM sleep is broken down into stage 1, 2, and 3, which correlates with the depth of sleep. Every stage of sleep is important. So when you hear people say, how can I, hack my sleep or things like that, you really want to make sure you're getting both stages. There are different things that you can do to make sure you're getting good quality sleep overall and actually getting really good deep sleep. One of those things is practicing healthy sleep habits. If you've watched any of my videos, I talk a lot about that, and definitely you can check out on my channel, you could see the video where I talked about creating restful sleep habits. So talking about limiting caffeine, limiting alcohol, making sure you exercise, all those things help to make sure you get good quality sleep. So I hope this has been helpful. We've just gone over the different stages of sleep, and we have come to understand what role each stage plays. And so if it has been helpful, I would love it if you like this video, if you share it with people in your community, as well as you subscribe to my channel. Until next time, I hope you rest well.